here on Mackey and Judd. And now we get into, I'm going to give people a fair warning here. The rest of these are all pertaining to Kirk Cousins. We had, and we're going to do, Purple Daily reads the comments too this weekend. I would say just going to the Score North app and taking in all the feedback from people this week, 80% or more was related to Kirk Cousins and or just the Vikings quarterback position in general. So I know sometimes people are like, do you guys ever talk about anything other than Cousins? The answer is sometimes, and the reason why we talk about Cousins all the time is because you guys clearly are interested in it. It's a fascinating topic. He's the most important and highly paid player on the team and in town. So that's the backdrop here. But here's the first question from Brett via the YouTube channel. Guys, almost every single pie chart of blame episode from last year had the majority of the blame going to Zimmer and Kubiak, not Cousins. Now, since the season has ended, Zimmer and Kubiak are gone, yet you've shifted to thinking that we can't win with Cousins. Give it a freaking chance with Zimmer and Kubiak. I mean, he is right. I'll speak for my own pie charts. I went out of my way to not put Cousins on some of those pie charts just because, the blame should have been spread around. But I think it's a mistake to say that, okay, the shortcomings of the Vikings over the past 4 years had nothing to do with an overly conservative quarterback who has sort of weird leadership skills behind the scenes. You can't just say, well, Mike Zimmer, who averaged 10 wins per season and went to an NFC championship game before Kirk arrived, just forgot how to coach entirely, and he was the cancer. Mike had some stuff that could have been better, but Kirk has been the common denominator going back to high school on teams that came nowhere close to winning championships.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
Unlike you, I think I included Kirk in my pie chart of blame as much as possible. I see
because you're a savage.
Yeah.
No, I see Spielman, Zimmer, and Kirk as all being the head of a monster that needs to be gone, and Kirk is the one who's left. I advocated months before it happened that Rick and Mike should be fired. They were. I've advocated that I think that I have seen enough of Kirk to know exactly who Kirk is. Kevin O'Connell said something yesterday that we should probably, we've dissected it, but we should probably dissect it from a little bit different angle because it's very important to me. The quarterback coach relationship, when it's clicking in 2022, is not a player coach relationship. It's not the old school, I tell you what to do, and damn it, you better go out there and execute it. It's a partnership. Everything that O'Connell said, and I believe this to be no BS. Everything that O'Connell said yesterday to me reeked of partnerships. I work with people, not at people. Except for when he talked about Kirk, who he's coached before. What did he say? I've got to get. As if, and again, this goes back to the comparison I've drawn for a long time. Kirk is a puppet quarterback. So O'Connell is saying, I've got to work the puppet strings. I've got to work. That's not ideal. That's not what you want. And so I firmly believe, and I've talked about this in different sports with different players. I think after time, you can read what a guy is capable of doing from a mental standpoint, which to me is the most important thing. Yeah. And I will stand by this. I don't think Kirk Cousins is mentally capable of doing what Kevin O'Connell is going to want from a QB. And I think O'Connell said that because the weird thing is physically, he can do a lot of things. But when you don't have that next gear mentally, that's very important. And I really think what O'Connell said is when he's saying, I have to do this, I have to do that to get this from Kirk, that I think to Kwesi and to Kevin O'Connell is a problem.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway on his Kirk Cousins comments yesterday, KOC, was he praised all the physical attributes, right? The accuracy, and even he compared the physical attributes to Matthew Stafford. And then he started talking about some of the mental stuff, and it was, I need to help Kirk connect with his teammates, lead us, and be a quiet-minded quarterback.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if you gave me Kirk's arm and accuracy and experience, and then you layered on top of that a quiet-minded guy in pressure situations that connected really well with all of his teammates and was a great leader, that's a That's like a Hall of Fame set of skills right there.
Yes.
But those three mental things have not all been there for Kirk. And my biggest question is, can a guy who's about to turn 34 years old really flip a switch in those areas? Or is it more of an inherent thing that you just are who you are? That's what they have to figure out.
And I don't want to coach trying to manipulate and puppeteer a quarterback Kirk's age. Like if this was Mond, okay, I get that. Young guy, doesn't know, trying to learn, developing, totally get that.
Yeah.
But you're talking about an adult, a man who is close to his mid 30s, who, by the way, has been doing this in this league statistically really well for a long time. You are basically ceding to the fact that you are going to have to work him to get what you want. And I don't think that is a Super Bowl formula. Is it a playoff team? Perhaps. But if we're talking about a championship, I think there's another step there. And what I need is a player, and that position is damn tough. I am not trying to say that these guys grow on trees. They definitely do not. But what you need is a player who is basically the CEO of the players and can work with the coach. The coach doesn't have to work him.
Yeah.
Hard to find, but that's how you win.
Going back to just his initial question of why didn't we blame Kirk as much in the season and now we're blaming him now. I mean, looking back in 2021 last year, I would say it's the first 10 games because the Vikings were 5-5 after week 11. They beat the Packers. And it seemed like, all right, there's been some problems with play calling. There's been some missed kicks. There's been some unfortunate situations. But for like the first time in Kirk's career, he didn't get off to a poor start. Kirktober was a go. And everything was still kind of going well in November. But then when they went to San Francisco, things reverted back to old Kirk. When they needed a win against bleeping Detroit in Detroit, I know the defense collapsed there in the last drive. That's still, in my opinion, a little bit on Kirk. When the season is now on the line, day after Christmas, at home against the Rams, and you can't deliver again, that falls on Kirk. So I do think we shifted our focus a little bit during the season, but then when you kind of look back on it, and there's moments in the season where you need your quarterback to save you, he did not come through in those situations.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's all fair. Garrett via Twitter here says Kevin O'Connell believes Kirk can be an effective QB and win games. This is literally supposed to be your arch nemesis as a coach, Phil. Well, two things. Number one, I don't know if I fully take everything at face value that was said yesterday. I think Kevin is confident he can work with almost anyone and at least get more out of them at the quarterback position. And so from that standpoint, yes, I am all in on this coaching hire. I love everything he has said. I love everything that we've heard about him so far. But I think, Garrett, this is a great lesson that there are shades of gray in life. Like that you think because I don't believe Kirk Cousins can win a Super Bowl that I think now Kevin O'Connell is an idiot somehow for speaking highly of Cousins. There's shades of gray here. Is it true that Kevin O'Connell can get more out of Kirk Cousins in certain key situations and areas of his game than Mike Zimmer? Absolutely. Do I think ultimately the Vikings are going to continue to fall short of winning a Super Bowl as long as Kirk Cousins is the starter and making a huge percentage of the cap? Absolutely. Shades of gray. I don't have to think that that KOC is an idiot because he praises a quarterback at a press conference. I mean, so let's quit dealing in black and white here. I think sometimes, even, just it's hard sometimes on Twitter. People say that, you blame Kirk for everything. That's not true. You think Kirk's garbage. No one on this show has ever said that. We're dealing in shades of gray here with Kirk Cousins. He's one of the top 14 or 15 quarterbacks in the world.
Yeah.
But because of some certain deficiencies and the money that he makes relative to the cap, it's not good enough for the Vikings as a team to get to where they want to be.
I also have decided he can't win a Super Bowl. Like, it's that simple. He tried. He gave it his best. He didn't make the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs. So
yeah, they made the playoffs once in 4 years so far as a team. Justin Nixon via Twitter says, how about a 3-year, $105 million extension for Cousins? Barr comes back for about $10 million a year, and Danielle Hunter signs an extension around $20 million a year. Also, write out the Harrison Smith contract. I love that as a Packers fan.
Yeah, I saw that tweet. Isn't that great? He's like, that's a great deal. as a Packers fan.
Oh man. Benjamin via YouTube says, I am amazed at how some fans can fool themselves about the quarterback situation. The this is interesting. The Kirk era teams for the Vikings have never finished any closer than 3 games of the NFC North title. Wow.
Well, the Packers won 13 the last 2-3 years.
Yeah. The average wins for the last 4 years with Cousins has been 8. The previous 4 years, Vikings teams won the NFC North twice in 4 years and averaged 10 wins. Zimmer was right about one thing: an excessive quarterback salary can hurt the team as a whole. And this is a great point. And it's, obviously like the defense eroded, and there's some certain things that didn't have everything to do with Kirk Cousins, but so many people focus solely on that one, that it's a linear move, that why would you want to get worse at quarterback? Well, ideally you don't, but if I can get way cheaper at quarterback and it's not a train wreck quarterback, I can build a monster roster. I can keep certain players, right? So it's funny because Kirk Cousins stands will always say it's a team game. Why are you blaming Kirk? And I would say, you're right. It's a team game. Why are you paying this guy 15 or 20% of the cap when he can't elevate the team?
Christian Ponder made as many playoff appearances as a Viking as Kirk has.
We lost Mackey. Oh, there he goes.
Sorry,
He's back.
Your point just mesmerized me so much that I was.
You froze.
You complexity.
You literally froze.
You put Kirk Cousins and Christian Ponder in the same sentence, and I was like, what? Short circuit. Alex, is it Pichetti on the Score North app says, I can't imagine the Vikings sticking with Kirk. I just can't see these new, innovative, cap-conscious, value-oriented dudes restructuring Cousins and keeping him as part of the future. I think that's more of like from Kwesi's standpoint, less Kevin O'Connell.
I'd agree.
You guys think so?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
I love this question here from Andrew Shockley via the Score North app. You guys have talked about how more often than not, you either need a quarterback on a rookie scale contract or an elite Hall of Fame level quarterback to have a realistic chance of winning a Super Bowl. In fact, I want to say like 90% of Super Bowl winning teams since 2000 have had one of those two things. And maybe when it's all said and done, we're going to say that Matthew Stafford, who is this number 1 overall pick talent, that maybe he's actually more of a Hall of Fame talent than people gave him credit for too. But let's assume the Vikings could get a first-round pick for Cousins. I'm curious, would you prefer either of these scenarios instead of the pick and a chance to draft a potential franchise quarterback? So here are the two scenarios. Scenario 1, Cousins at his current ability level, but on a rookie scale contract. So $5-10 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Or any quarterback in the world, so a Mahomes or a Burrow, but at Kirk's 2022 cap hit. So would you rather pay 20 to 25% of your salary cap to Pat Mahomes or Joe Burrow, or would you rather have the current Kirk Cousins and his deficiencies, but making like $30 to $40 million less?
Is my highly paid Kirk contract quarterback doing what Kirk won't do and allowing me to redo the contract to have the cheap cap hit in that year? That's the question.
No,
did you not hear the two options?
Did you? Yes.
No, I did. But
you're manipulating the question.
But Mahomes and
Judd.
Brady continually dial back their contracts.
God. No.
You're supposed to pay them. But no, I would not want to have. I would prefer Kirk because I can build a team around.
Unbelievable.
Kirk. No, it's not. Why is it unbelievable?
I just gave you two options. You're like, what about this third option?
But what is the
they always
asterisk?
Push their money. They always push their money around, and that's what Kirk won't do. No, I would rather have. I would take Cousins on the rookie contract because I can build a team around him. I can have a really good team around him.
Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. Give me Mahomes.
Yeah, give me. My God, Patrick Mahomes every 8 days a week.
I'll take Mahomes. Yeah.
At that price, with that price.
Yes.
Okay, here's your problem. That's all well and good except for one flaw. The flaw is this: you can't have the Chiefs team that was built last year. Then, so you're stripping that team down. He renegotiated the contract immediately to give them cap room. That's my point. If you're going to take Kirk at the current salary, take away O linemen. They don't have Thuney. They can't build it out. They are now not a good team around him. Is that what you want? Because that's what you'll get.
I'm skeptical that the Vikings, even with like $5 million Kirk Cousins, can win a Super Bowl. Because until he proves it wrong, he's had in Washington, right? Like he's had Sean McVay as a coach. He's had Kyle Shanahan as a coach. He's all these different things. He's had weapons. He's had defenses in Minnesota.
I agree.
But so do I think that Mahomes on a $45 million cap hit and an eroded roster can win a Super Bowl? Probably not.
Right.
So I guess it comes down to who do I trust?
That's why I tried to change the question.
I probably still trust Mahomes.
You guys laughed at me. I tried to change the question because I had the clear path to a Super Bowl.
You're just a Cousins crusader disguising yourself. Charles Nielsen via the Score North app. Charles Nielsen says, I've been listening to you guys for several years now, and as a diehard Chiefs fan living in Vikings land, there are some interesting contrasts in perspective. Before Patrick Mahomes, the two teams shared many similarities, with Alex Smith being basically a similar version of Cousins. But the last couple of years, while you guys have been praying for Kirk to take a few more risks, we've been begging Mahomes to take what the defense gives him. The AFC Championship game being a prime example. Don't get me wrong, I would never trade Mahomes for Cousins, but it is interesting to see the difference in perspective. The key thing with this comment, Charles, is AFC Championship game. AFC Championship game is a level of football competition that Kirk Cousins teams have never been to. Mm-hmm. And never mind the Super Bowls and the championship as well.
Yeah.
So I'll take Mahomes' deficiencies, and maybe he should check down once in a while.
And it is I will say this for Charles' point, because it's a good one. The level of collapse of Mahomes that started on that fourth and goal play was one of the most surprising things I have seen from a star athlete in a big game ever. He literally lost it, and I don't know how he didn't come back. Yeah. He was a mess. So in that case, I get what certainly had to be the frustration of Chiefs fans. But there's a happy medium too between being dumb with the football and doing stupid things and checking down on 3rd and 27 when the ball has to go down the bleeping field. So like, I'm not looking for Mr. Irresponsible, but I also don't want, and O'Connell referred to Kirk checking down. Somewhere in between there is a sweet spot of what I like to call giving yourself an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think not even 3rd and 27. How about 3rd and 12? Right? There's certain times or end game situations where it's okay to take a risk, man. Doesn't matter anymore if you throw a pick. Nicholas via the Score North app says, I enjoy your show. Thank you. Not sure I heard you mention the scenario. Vikings extend Kirk so the contract makes it easier to trade him. What do you think about that? Well, actually, I think the reason why Cousins would never agree to that is because as long as his contract is set up the way that it is, which is this massive 1-year cap hit, then it's essentially a no trade clause, because he can now dictate, hey, if you trade me here, I'm not going to sign an extension with that team and smooth out the cap hit.
Sure.
So it's like he doesn't have a no trade clause, but he kind of does, because the Vikings could trade him somewhere. But if a team says, well, if he's not going to sign an extension and smooth out the cap hit, we're not going to give you a 1st round pick.
Right.
Right.
So, but he and his camp could work out a contract extension with a trade pending. And that would get the Vikings potentially, to your example, a 1st round pick. So yeah, I don't think we see a ton of, and I don't know what the exact rules are on what would be the equivalent of an NBA sign and trade. But yes, if you work out a deal with the Browns and Kirk's like, I love Stefanski, 3 more years, odds are good that you're then going to get a 1st or 2nd round pick.
And then just another thing here, and excuse me, I want to find this so I can accurately give you the numbers. But the rest of his comment here, Nicholas says, I understand Cousins does melt more than the average quarterback when pressured, but everyone does worse under pressure. You must admit that the pressure is ridiculous at times. And yes, the Vikings do allow more pressures than you would like. But I just want to point something out here. When it comes to those pressure, like when you drop back and there's pressure, all right, the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL, yards per attempt, were Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford. Both those guys averaged over 8 yards per attempt when pressured. Now, they threw some picks. They threw a handful of picks each when under pressure, but they're also capitalizing on the upside of home run plays down the field. Cousins, on the other hand, ranked 32nd in the NFL in yards per attempt under pressure, 5.1 last year. It's just statistically, he is just not good when conditions aren't perfect. And so this is the crossroads we keep coming to, right? Well, then we need to make the conditions more perfect. And I say, well, yeah, like you should always be trying to do that. But if he's that bad and that conservative when the conditions are imperfect, and now you're playing on the road in the second, third round of the playoffs, right? Like you're never going to get perfect conditions. So it's just a never-ending game of trying to make conditions more perfect, or you can find a quarterback that can operate better when conditions are imperfect.
The entire sport is designed for imperfection. So like, I don't know what to say. Like it is the most imperfect sport ever. There are constant breakdowns. They're designed to be there. So like, you're not going to have that. And plus the thing too, with Kirk and pressure, and this is where Stafford, for better or worse, is what McVay wanted. Stafford gives you a chance, but he'll screw up. But when he screws up, what's he doing? Delivering the football, right? He's making a split-second decision and delivering the football. Kirk, sit back in the pocket and we'll wait because he doesn't want to screw up. The problem there is you get sacked, you fumble. And look, back to Dex's point, the San Francisco game. Kirk fell apart after he threw a bad pick. That didn't have to happen. The pick did. Who cares, right? Shake it off. We're in San Francisco. This is a tough place to play. They're really good. They are tough. You know what, guys? We're back. But instead, it didn't just affect him for the rest of that game. I contend it affected him for weeks. Like the Kirk Cousins after that pick was back to the gun shy, skittish. I made a mistake. I don't want to ever make a mistake again. And that to me is an unworkable quarterback, unfortunately, in that vein, in this league today, because it's constant failure.
And I would argue, too, that he actually makes the offensive line worse than a lot of other quarterbacks would because of some of the things you're talking about. Prashant via the Score North app says, trade Kirk Cousins and a fourth to a quarterback-needy team for a first-round pick and a bridge quarterback in return. Could be Cleveland. Sign Brandon Scherf. Draft Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa. So you have the couple Iowa guys in the middle there. And then draft a quarterback like Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder with your second first-round pick. Restructure Adam Thielen, trade Harrison Smith, draft a corner and a receiver in the second and third rounds, re-sign Pat P, and restructure Daniel Hunter. Let's get it. Build your team to be competitive in 2022 and pop off in 2023. Dude, where do I sign up for this?
I'm all in on that.
Crazy.
Can Prashant be the assistant general manager?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Burner account.
Is that what happened? Yeah. Did we just get an email from the new Vikings GM?
He's like, here's what I'm going to
Prashant,
tell you guys.
Sounds like a great offseason blueprint, man.
Love it.
It's great stuff. All right. That's your Feedback Friday here. Mackey and Judd. We are at your service. Daily Minnesota sports entertainment therapy. That's right. And Judd's Mets hat. That's what the people want to know about.
Right here.
And manipulating questions.
I've got them. Hey,
here's option 1 and 2. And you're like, what about the third option?
Because I can't have that. I can't have that.
Well, then you can't answer the question. You're not answering the damn question.
I answered the question, but I told you what the better response was.
Do you guys want ketchup or mustard? Judd's like, ooh, that's
I see that spicy mayo is not available there.
Mayo. Give me the damn spicy mayo.
Oh, man. All right. That's a wrap on Mackey and Judd here. Feedback Friday. We'll see you guys over on Purple Daily, where we also have this weekend a dive into the comment section. Tons more on Cousins and the KOC Vikings era. See you guys.